Good day, citizens of Neverwinter. Today I'm here to talk to you about the Paladin. I have three distinct builds to share. I have a party tanking build, a solo sort of quasi DPS build, and a party healer build. These are all viable builds. Obviously, the solo DPS build really isn't for party DPS. The Paladin, while the Paladin does do decent DPS for a tank or a healer, that is not your main goal as a paladin. Your main goal as a paladin is to play support. As such, the paladin does an admirable job at both, and according to many people, is probably one of the easiest tanks to make in the game. So I'm going to start with my tank build. I'm not going to go too deep into equipment on any of these individual builds. You can see that I am running the Alabaster, Longsword, and Shield. I am starting with a party tank build. I'm only running 520,000 hit points. I found that there are a lot of healers on the server that have a real difficult time getting a good heal down if you're up past about 550,000 hit points. That being said, I could throw more hit points on here. I also could throw more power, and I'm definitely over cap on all my stats except for deflect. Um, from the paladin perspective, you want to make sure that you are over cap on your armor pen and accuracy. That does help you draw a threat. You want to make sure you're meeting your cap on your crit and your defense. You want to try to balance your stats as well as possible on the paladin. Uh, and then from an artifact perspective, when I'm running a party tank, I found that the Sigil of Paladin is really a great utility enchantment to have on there. Uh, and then I am still running the Demogorgon set on here. I could probably run one of the newer artifact sets uh, for non DPS roles. But the Demogorgon set is still doing a pretty good job. When we talk about mounts, uh, obviously I'm running all legendary insignia. I'm running a lot of insignia that's giving me stats, so I'm trying to get my deflect up through some of this. I am not currently running any power in here, although if you're running a party healer build, running dominance insignia for power in here would be a good idea. From a companion's perspective, I'm going to end up going through companions on each of these loadouts because it's a little different for every one of them. You can see that for my tank, I am running the Boulette's Presence. So I do have a baby Boulette summoned as my augment at Legendary. Uh, that's a pretty good stat bonus. Otherwise, running a lot of hit points in here for the tank. Uh, so everything in here is basically giving me hit points except for this Red Cap's Wisdom, which is giving me armor pen and crit avoidance. And I believe I have something else I can slot in there for hit points instead. So again, more hit points, but not going crazy overboard. From a boon perspective, power, uh, hit points, speed, because again, we want to keep up with the party. More companion influence for better stats. I am on running focused retaliation, however, for my master boon, and of course, action point gain and recovery speed. When I look at my guild boons, in this case, I am running awareness because I was at the time I was slotting it running a little on low awareness. Let me go look right now. Yeah, my awareness is just a little over cap. If I were to take that boon off, I would drop below cap on awareness. So that's up there. Again, so I'm not taking as much combat advantage damage. And of course, running power. And then in a dungeon, I would run Revive Sickness over top of the Mount Speed boon. When we talk powers, for at wills, I'm using Oath Strike and Shielding Strike. Shielding Strike hits a little harder, but Oath Strike has increased threat mechanic. That's really important for keeping stuff off of you in group. When I'm running a solo with this or running trash mobs with a group, I will run Relentless Avenger. Again, I want to be, as a tank, you want to be the first one into the mobs or the first one attacking the boss. You want to get threat right away. Um, if you can, rotate to the back of the mobs so that your DPS can start hitting right away and everyone has combat advantage. And then I have run Burning Light quite a bit. Again, when I'm in mob groups, and then I run Smite. If I'm running this tank against a boss, I will use Vow of Enmity instead of Relentless Avenger, and I will generally either run Divine Touch or um, Sacred Weapon. From a daily perspective, I use mostly damage dailies on here, Divine Judgment and Radiant Charge. Again, they're pretty good. Alternatively, if your party's struggling, you could run Shield of Faith or Divine Protector. Uh, all the daily choices on the Paladin are really solid. I find, though, like from Lair of the Mad Mage, Divine Judgment's pretty much a must when you're killing mimics. From a class feature perspective, I am running Composure, so I am generating Divinity. It can be a little bit of a challenge with a party tank. Generating Divinity, you need to make sure that you're getting hit on the shield to really maximize your Divinity. So playing the Paladin's a little different than it used to be prior to mod 16. The other one I'm running is Divine Challenger because I always have Smite slotted, and that just puts me right at the top of the target list when I run Smite. From a feat perspective, I'm running a Sacred Shield. So that's Sacred's weapons now granting me increased threat and restores my stamina. So again, good stamina gain, keep that shield up longer. Running Burning Vengeance, so when I do use Burning Light, it's a little better. And then I am running Divine Pursuit. And counter powers, which cost Divinity, now grant Divine Pursuit, causing at will attacks to restore some Divinity. I've gone back and forth and respec probably about 20 times between Justice Bulwark and Divine Pursuit on this. I feel like Divine Pursuit's just a little better because it's a little more reliable. You spend too much time with your shield just sitting there, you're going to burn through a lot of stamina, and you're not necessarily going to get hit, and you're not necessarily going to gain Divinity. And then I'm going to look at Sheltering Light here. So whenever you are healed, party members under the effect of your Shield of Faith are now healed for 50% of the value you are healed for. So again, if you're in a struggle party, throw Shield of Faith on there, and now when you get healed, everyone else is getting healed. And then finally, I am running Unyielding Champion. The divinity cost of Divine Champion is reduced by 10, and both Divine Champion and Divine Palisade now block up to 75% of your total maximum hit points. Uh, it's a handy little mechanic to have, and it can improve your survivability as a party tank. I'm not gonna get too much into the gameplay of a tank. It's pretty much get in there, get your threat, and manage your divinity. Now I'm gonna switch over to the solo DPS. So I do use an Oathkeeper build for solo DPS. From an equipment perspective, there's a slight change of equipment. So you can see that I swapped in the furred Kiono of the Bear, Terror Grips, Heels of Fury. So you can see now I have gear in here that does percentage damage gain. And I also swapped in the Wheel of Elements artifact for my primary artifact here. So this is just all about boosting my damage. You can also see I have the Shadow Stalker. My stats are pretty much the same as they were previously. Not a lot changed there. My mount insignia are the same on this one, although I do have a different summoned mount power over here. So I have the flail snail power, which is giving me dailies a little bit more often. From a companion perspective, you can see that there's a change in here as well. So I should probably get some more power pets in here and then take some of these hit points out, and I will do that some point in the future. But I am running, for example, the Raptor's Instincts. Uh, and then again, so looking at this, I am running Empowered in all my slots, and then running Bonding rank 15s all around. In this case, for some reason, I have the Ion Stone summoned. I'll change that here later to back to the Bullet Pup. From a boons perspective, boons are basically the same except for Master Boon. I am now running Deathly Rage. So when I'm soloing and I make a kill, I'm getting that bonus. From a powers perspective, this is where, again, it's quite a bit different. Now I'm on an Oathkeeper, I'm running solo, and I'm just doing stuff, right? Divinity management, I will say, on a healing path is much easier to do because of the tab mechanic. So I have Valorious Strike and I have Divine Fulmination. So Divine Fulmination is a ranged at will. It's a little bit slow to cast, but it does hit pretty hard. And it's kind of nice if you just want to reach out and touch someone, right? And then from an encounter perspective, I run Burning Light, Sacred Weapon, and Smite. You can play around a little bit, but again, this is just about doing damage and getting through your solo content. And then from a daily perspective, I'm running Divine Judgment. And then uh, if I'm running MEs, I will run some Shield of Faith on occasion, but primarily a Radiant Charge. Also, when you're running MEs, Master Expeditions with people, you can onslaught Sacred Weapon for Cleansing Touch, and that will remove any of the runic corruptions that party members can get. From a class feature perspective, I'm running Blessed Wanderer, which increases my damage dealt by 5%, and Composure, which is increasing my divinity generation. From a feat perspective, I'm running Sheltered Healing, Cure Wounds. So for this particular loadout, column 1 is kind of a throwaway. And then I'm running Prayer of Opportunity, uh, Enduring Spirit. So Sacred Weapon now reduces damage taken. And then Convalescence, again, kind of a throwaway. And then Emissary of Warning. Whenever your spells generate Divine Barrier, heal critically, and the effect of the barrier is doubled. So in other words, if you do, say, Cure Wound, or I'm sorry, Divine Touch, or Divine Shelter, they both raise Divine Barriers. They now heal critically, and uh, the barrier effect is doubled. Again, running solo, I don't run that very often. However, I do occasionally use those in the mix for tougher enemies for kind of a temp hit point shield. From a party heals perspective, so I'll switch over to that loadout because you see all kinds of stuff happen there. Again, from equipment's perspective, I'm kind of back over to my tank equipment right now. Uh, the most important stats on here when you're talking about a healer, um, forget about armor pen, that doesn't matter. Uh, Accuracy doesn't matter anymore. Really, what you're looking for is power. You're looking to cap your crit strike, which you can see I'm way over cap on. You're looking to have a somewhat decent crit severity. So in this case, if you're running a healer, you should probably be running a Vorpal enchantment as well to increase your critical heals. And then you want to make sure your outgoing healing is at least at 20%. Um, I suggest going even higher than I am right now. Uh, and then from an artifact perspective, I still like the sigil of the Paladin for this loadout. It just gives me a little bit extra oomph for myself. And then from a mount perspective, again, running that action point gain, make sure I have my a little bit more, a few more dailies, and then obviously my legendary insignia as well. If you were again, you should probably I would probably switch out and put in instead of aggression insignias, which I'm way over armor pen anyway. Change that out for dominance. Again, more power, companion influence, better stats. From a companion's perspective, I am running the. You can see that I am still have the other Ion Stone summoned, but I have the Baby Boulette's presence, and then I have outgoing healing bonus companion slotted here. So when these are leveled to legendary, these will be 10% outgoing healing. 10% outgoing healing is going to be roughly equal to adding 10,000 more power. So, from a healing perspective, if you want to heal a layer of the Mad Mage, again, get your outgoing healing bonus up. It will make a huge difference. From a boons perspective, bottom tier again, very cookie cutter. I did go with an outgoing healing bonus instead of an action point gain here. Again, I'm getting some action point gain off of the flail snail bonus off the mount, and then obviously increasing my encounter recovery. That's going to be more for encounters that don't cost divinity. And then from a master boon perspective, I'm using Blessed Advantage. Again, it's really about improving my heals. Uh, Stronghold boons, in this case, I am running hit points and I am running power. Uh, right now, I have the mount speed bonus in, but during a dungeon run, I would actually run revive sickness. When we talk about a power perspective, this one's going to be a little different. Again, so I'm running Cure Wounds and Divine Fulmination. So as a healer, I don't plan on being up close and personal. I want to stand back a little bit. I want to be able to target stuff, stay out of the action, and really get the heals targeted rather than being actively engaged in DPSing a DPS race. From an encounter perspective, I run Circle of Power. This again, this can be really helpful during certain phases like this, like the gigawatt phase in the second boss of Lair of the Mad Mage, the thunderclap that Trobriand does, and also when you're healing someone that's in a cocoon. And then I also run Bane as well as Divine Touch. Uh, I run Divine Touch because it has a relatively low divinity cost for a relatively good heal. I also run Divine Shelter on occasion, but Divine Shelter's heal, you can see the heal magnitude of Divine Shelter is 350, where the heal magnitude on Divine Touch is 500 for a lower cost. From a daily perspective, I run Sanctuary quite often, so that's kind of my go-to daily. And then I'll run Shield of Faith on occasion. During the Mimic phase, if I'm running a healer, I will slot Divine Judgment instead of Shield of Faith in there, again, to give a little extra oomph against the Mimics. And I will generally switch out Bane for Smite in those scenarios. From a class features perspective, I run Composure. So again, generated more Divinity. Divinity is really easy to do on the Paladin with the tab mechanic. I find that the Divinity gain is a lot better, and it's a lot easier to manage than, say, a Paladin tank. But that's my own experience. For the other one, I'm running Aura of Restoration. Again, I'm increasing the healing received by self and nearby party members by 5%. By 5%. So again, increasing my healing. For feats, first column, critical touch. So this grants my at-will powers a 10% chance bestow effect of critical touch whenever critical touch, which guarantees that your next divine touch will critically strike. So again, you can see I got divine touch here, and so I'm hitting with my at-wills, and I'm now giving a possibility of a guaranteed crit on that big heal. For my second column, I'm running Prayer of Opportunity. Whenever you activate a power, there's a 5% chance you will gain Prayer of Opportunity. This effect may stack up to 3 times. So basically, you're gaining stacks, and then you can channel your divinity, and then you're going to regain some extra divinity. It can be really helpful. For the third column, Enduring Spirit. In this case, I don't very often run a Sacred Weapon, but I can slot Sacred Weapon in there, and it will, again, help me manage my divinity a little bit. And then I run Convalescence. So while under the shield effect of Shield of Faith, convert all divine barriers into hit point recovery. So this is a case where I can run Shield of Faith. I often run Sanctuary instead, but if I run Shield of Faith and now I'm throwing down my Divine Touch, which grants a Divine Barrier, it's just directly converting that into hit points instead for heals, which can be really helpful during the Cocoon phase on the first boss in Lair of the Mad Mage. And then finally, I'm running Emissary of Warning. Again, whenever your spells which generate a Divine Barrier heal critically, the effect of the barrier is doubled. That's all I have for the Paladin build today. If you found any of this information useful, or you have some critiques on my builds, please hit me up on Twitch. The link here is on the video as well as in chat below. Or you can just go to Twitch TV slash Lord Willow I'm sorry, Twitch TV slash Lord underscore Willow underscore. Thank you very much and have a great day.